So, yesterday, FINRA finally decided to delete MMTLP, but they did it by backdating it to December 13th, effectively falsifying evidence. Rose is well aware. She said she was telling me she'll probably bring it up, but she can't file anything until she gets a ruling from the judge on the current motions before him. So we're gonna have to wait and see what the judge says about that. And if he rules against her, then it's probably to the appellate court, where this will have to be seen by a panel. And if the panel says, you know what, you can be sued, then it goes back down. The judge goes, all right, they can be sued, so we progress, and it goes through there. So that's what we're sitting on. That's what we are sitting on. Okay. David Zandez, Houston, is it true that trading cannot resume until Nextbridge puts a price on the 40 million shares? Thanks. I don't know. I mean, there might be a rule out there that says that. Because if you don't know, Nextbridge had filed an S1 to sell 40 million shares to an accredited, chosen investor, because they need to raise money to continue drilling. And they have to pay back the short-term loan they got from McCabe. I mean, I'd just sell one share at $1 gajillion. Just pool some money together, sell one like $20,000 and be like, that's the price. And just watch it go nuts. Just sell one. That's all I have to do. And then once all cleared out, then you can be like, okay, new price. We're going to do an offering at $40. There you go. And go from there. Chance Wayne, what do you make of the risks heading in the Nextbridge prospectus, where they mention their inexperience drilling for oil, lack of funds, lack of buyers, etc.? All sounds concerning. They're required to put that stuff in there. If you read any prospectus of any company, the risks section basically is like, let's think of anything that can go wrong, because they want to like Murphy's Law proof their prospectus. So they will list every solitary concerning thing that they have because they're required to by law. If they can think of it, they have to put it in there. Mention it as a risk. It's like every single time they do a prospectus, they talk about, hey, we aren't producing oil. We need to drill to maintain these leases. We got to come up with cash to pay for it all. So we got to find it from somewhere. And that's in every prospectus they've had. If they can't get the cash together, then they can't drill the holes. If they can't drill the holes, then they lose the oil leases. So, but they got the cash. McCabe, they did a deal with McCabe. McCabe gave them like $20 million, and they're drilling. So they're going to meet their drilling requirements, and they're going to be able to keep their leases. And then, they got to pay McCabe back by sometime in June, and they got to come up with the next round of money to drill holes, which is I think they're looking at that, selling those 40 million shares. That they sell those 40 million shares to somebody in the next few months, then they pay McCabe back, and they got money for the next year to do drilling. And in that time, they can do more proof of their reserves. They can either look for a co-investor, to Exxon or someone, to jump in that oil field, or they can sell it in its entirety. Be like, hey, we don't have the ability to put this infrastructure in here, but if you want to give us a significant chunk of change, you can have this oil field. And that's probably what they're hoping for. I mean, there's a couple oil companies in the area that have similar sized chunks of land, and they're producing because they got the infrastructure, they got the oil tanks and the pipelines and everything, and they're producing and shipping oil, and the companies are worth $50 billion. We have just as much oil. We just don't have any of the infrastructure yet to do anything about it. So a lot of the oil is in shale. And so I don't know if you guys know much about it. So the shale is sediment that gets laid down in like bogs and riverbeds and whatnot. And trapped inside of that are microorganisms, plant detritus and things. And when that mudstone gets baked into shale, that mudstone clay gets baked into shale, tiny little pockets of methane, natural gas, and oil are trapped in the matrix of the rock, which is where fracking comes in. So when you're testing these holes, oftentimes you're doing a core sample. So you're drilling like a core, 3-inch core or whatever, goes down, takes out a chunk of rock, and they smash that rock up and measure the amount of hydrocarbons inside the rock. They go, oh, okay, in this 1 foot section of rock, we have this much hydrocarbons. We know this rock layer is this thick and it spans this region. We can calculate that there's 3 billion barrels of oil and 6 trillion cubic feet of natural gas because we have this rock sample showing that. And so then when it comes time to extract the oil is when you do the fracking, which is you create this high pressure hydraulic fluid basically, and you push it into the rock and you burst the rock into a gajillion pieces and it releases all the oil and all the gas, and then you can suck it out of the ground. This is technology we've heard about fracking and all this stuff, but this technology it's only started being used in the last 20 years. Before that, we didn't know how to get this stuff out of these things, and we didn't. And so it opened up probably 1 trillion barrels of oil across the United States. I think in the shales in Colorado alone, they measured there's like 1 trillion barrels of oil. So if we really wanted to, like, frack the hell out of this entire country, we could extrude so much oil. But we've also shown that the fluids we use to fracture the rock, gets in the groundwater and does all sorts of horrible things. Across Ohio and Oklahoma, they're having earthquakes that never happened before because we just messed with the rock strata with all this fracking. But this is what they'll do in Texas. This is how they'll get it out because that's what they do in Texas is they suck oil out of the ground. But it takes time and money, and that's the big risk that Nextbridge has is time and money. Every year they gotta drill those holes. Every year they come up with the cash to drill those holes. And without having a way of selling that oil, getting the oil processed, then they got to keep borrowing to do that. Chris Collins, I think Rosa was happy with Judge Hinkle looking at his previous judgments. Let's hope he doesn't just take FINRA at their word and listens to Rosa. That's the important part. If he just goes, well, FINRA says they're immune and doesn't do his homework, then Rosa's screwed. If he does his homework and goes, oh, yeah, that looks like they can be sued in the right circumstances. So then she's doing all right. Corletto 46, does Houston have P.O. Box? Where can we send our own shirts for him to wear? I do. Oh, and then BW Brand put it in there. It's in the description. P.O. Box 4645, Rollingbay, Washington 98061. Right, Kitty? Right, you haven't got, there's some cat toys, I think, in one of them. I think Mystery Michael. Michael Mystery sent you some, right, buddy? Okay. Daddio 357, Houston. Rumors attorneys are working on a settlement for MMTLP. Have you heard this? And what do you think is the minimum our side would settle for? Not financial advice. Thank you. I mean, different people will settle for different things. If it's the whales have 61 million shares between them. $100, that's $6 billion. So they make about $100, got $6 billion. And the small time people, us, thousands of dollars a share. And if the rumors that lawyers are working on a deal, then why haven't they contacted Rosa about that deal? Wouldn't she be a lawyer on that deal since she's actively suing right now? Hey, we have a settlement offer for you. We'll offer you this much, sign NDA, get the hell out. That's what I'd do if I was FINRA. Get her to shut up and go away. Pay her off. Have her sign the NDA and move along. But they're hoping that the judge will just throw it all out. But I don't. I mean, if this were to go to market, we'd be getting thousands of dollars a share. We'd be fleecing the hell out of these hedge funds and brokers and everyone else. And so if it's not in the hundreds or thousands, then who's going to agree to it? Not many. TKK is one of the early morning risers in Denmark. Dustin Wright, do you think Webull is straight up not telling the truth, saying they have all real shares? The message they just put out yesterday. Yeah, no, they're full of shit. We know this because people turn on their lending and their shares vanished or immediately lent out instantaneously. Why would they be lent out instantaneously? Because there's still a whole bunch of nakeds out there they got to cover for, at least by borrowing something for the books, right? Because if the feds are looking into it, if SEC is looking into it, you're gonna have to show you didn't naked short this stuff, and then you shorted it legitimately. And the only way you can do that is by borrowing the shares. So no, Webull's full of crap. There's so many synthetics out there. These fake counterfeit shares, no, they're full of shit. I mean, if they had everyone's shares, if I were Webull and if there were no fake shares in my system whatsoever, and they got this one big certificate that goes to APX, it's full of, I don't know, 10 million shares or whatever, I would just say, you know what, everybody? We are going to pay the $235 fee, and we're just going to transfer all of your shares of AST for you, whether you like it or not. All of you are going to have an AST account. Your shares are going over there. We're out. But because they have a whole bunch of fake shares in their brokerage, just like every other brokerage, they can't do that. And they won't do that. And so they're going to try to charge you individually, pay a whole bunch of different prices that you shouldn't have to pay to try and register those suckers. And that's one way they're just trying to, pass the buck if they can. Literally and figuratively. Chance Wayne, Houston, are you considering transferring any portion of your Nextbridge broker shares through AST, or are you waiting for the court challenges to play out before making a decision? I am waiting. Because if the court challenges work out in the way that we want, then I want to be in a brokerage to sell easily. I don't want to be selling AST and have to worry about that. Selling through a direct registered share is just annoying as hell. But I'll make up my mind more if the courts rule against us, and it looks like a payout might not work. But for now, I'm just going to sit with Fidelity and just keep going, shaking my head at everything that all these brokers are doing, going, just sell. Just allow people to buy and sell shares or something and just close this crap out.